What did Rohit do well on this tour? Anything at all?
I know people will go by the average of 30, but I think he did a better job than that. It was difficult. I'm not saying it was stupid. I'm just saying you have to put up more price on the wicket because you are that good. You should give him, or you could say he's not rateable. He's unrateable.
Unrateable, unplayable. One Jasprit Bumrah.
ठीक है, तुम बहुत stubborn हो, probably even bordering arrogance. कि तुम जैसे खेलो तुम वैसे ही खेलोगे and you want to stick to it.
To me, most disappointingly, it's also been the timing of his dismissals. You look at just before lunch. That's not the place where you want Virat to get out.
Trying to solve for one issue ended up creating a whole new different issue, and he clearly didn't have answers for that.
Get the player ratings done and dusted, right? Basically, let's keep it quick. One sentence about that player and what he's done in this series. So I'll start with Jaiswal, boys. On 10, how many points? And comment can also get free.
Yeah. So for me, I think I'll go with 8. Very, very good series. Exceeded expectations by some distance. India's highest scorer. 1 point cut for the runout and 1 cut for the drop catches, because had both of those not happened, this series would have been far more different. So I'll happily give him an 8. I think those two mistakes were too big for India and they cost them a lot. So hence those deductions there.
I agree with Nick's over there. 8. Maybe I would push it with an 8.4 because he was just so good in terms of the rest, Akshay. Also the fact that he literally got that 100, got a couple of 50s, those twin 80s in Melbourne, and not to forget just also understanding how this team operates largely overseas, because it was a massive tour for him to prove his credentials. He's had a fantastic 2024 and he's nailed an 8 for me as well. So do you agree with me in that? And Nick's?
Yeah, it was what I was also going for. Fantastic series, more than the runs itself. The stat that you mentioned earlier, he faced the most deliveries across Indian batters. That gave me a lot more confidence in him. I've also been of the opinion that he's one of those batters. He's one of the only batters who has it in him to actually occupy the crease. And it was good to see him also show that side of him during the series.
Okay, fair enough. So 8, 8 and 8.4 from my end. KL Rahul, boys, number 2 in this BGT player ratings. I would start and say 7.7. I generally thought he could have delivered more in that one test if his position wasn't fumbled with. What I liked of him was just exactly knowing how and where his off stuff was. Unlucky with Snicko in one of the games. So his numbers, even though what he ended up with, I think, 276 runs in the 5 tests that he played, averaging 30. It doesn't really go to show how much he kind of helped out India in terms of blunting that new ball up front for Jaiswal, just being that perfect foil for him. So KL, without my Bangalore bias, is a 7.7 and 10. Nick, do you resonate?
Yeah, similar, but I'm just sticking to 7. And again, that I feel is probably a 1 point higher because you want him to make the most of his starts. I think he got starts in quite a few games where you wanted him to then go on and make a big one. Again, the point here is not always about runs. We knew his role was going to be someone who has to spend a lot more time. So I would actually, if you be very harsh, I would probably give him a 6 because there were a few dismissals where he shouldn't have gotten out that way because of his role in particular. So I know people will go by the average of 30, but I think he did a better job than that. It was difficult. So not even 7. I think let's stick to 6. I think 6 is fair. Always leaves you wanting more. So I think that way it's a good number.
Okay, 6. Akshay, do you resonate with Nick's in the chat? The chat's giving him a 4, 5, 6, pretty much on those lines.
I'd give him I started off at 7 and I'll probably go 0.5 higher, 7.5, only because of all the tinkering that happened with his position that did not really help his cause. I want to believe if he was given a consistent run and if he played 10 innings at one single position, he probably would have given better returns. So given that, I would still give him a 7.5 because it's not easy for you to have to play across, up and down the order. It's easier said than done. You're sometimes asked to play the new ball. Sometimes you're expected to arrest a collapse, and on other occasions you're expected to just occupy the crease. He did all those different roles with decent proficiency. So 7.5, I think, is a fair shout.
Let's move on to player number 3 that we want to rate in terms of the BGT, and that's Shubman Gill.
For points, I think I'll give him the points that he has for his spot, and that is 3. because this had to be his series. He's got starts. If you don't make most of those starts, it's not going to help you anywhere. So 3, 4, whichever you want to go, I think that's the max that you can give.
Akshay, where do you stand on Gill? I think I'm going to be setting with a 4.5 for Gill, because if he got the longer rope, maybe he could have given us 50 or more. But of course, outside Asia, since 2021, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, at this point in time, he is busy replicating the latter half of Kohli's career when we all are expecting him to do it with the form, and that's the biggest problem. I'll actually be a bit more stricter with him, especially because of his short selections. It's not just the fact that he didn't get runs, but the way he was getting dismissed again and again across those 5 innings, that really annoyed me more than anything. I'm going with the 2. वो भी इसीलिए क्योंकि I don't think I'll be giving anyone 0 because उतना तो मैं नहीं तो दो देना है बस. But yeah, really disappointed with the series.
Player number 4 in batting order, it is Virat Kohli, and I know I'm going to save mine for the boys in just a bit. Nikhil, Virat on 10, how much should you give him?
Very difficult, no? If you give 3 for this short selection, how much do you give a guy who you expect more? Now, the logic here has to be how much do you expect of him to give him rankings or ratings accordingly. I'm very torn between the same 2 numbers because he got starts, but he got out the same way. So that makes it really difficult. He got a great 100 to start with, but 100 out of 190. And the rest of the innings, they've hardly been anything. To me, most disappointingly, it's also been the timing of his dismissals. You look at just before lunch. That's not the place where you want Virat to get out. So, with a hard heart, I'll still probably give him 3. He got starts, should have converted most of them, and the dismissals patterns, bro. I mean, Vikas said it very rightly. At one stage, you felt just leave one on the stumps, just get bowled. Even that would do, but don't get out nicking again to the switch. Because if the bowler is coming in saying we'll get him out like this, and eventually he gets out like that, the expectations are more from him.
Akshay, what about you, Virat?
There were a couple of interesting observations that probably made me be a bit less harsh on Virat and look at him in a different light. For the longest time, I most felt the same ki boss. ठीक है यार तुम बहुत stubborn हो, probably even bordering arrogance कि तुम जैसे खेलो तुम वैसे ही खेलोगे and you want to stick to it. Trying to solve for one issue ended up creating a whole new different issue, and he clearly didn't have answers for that. For someone who's been to Australia 4 times before, who's been playing international cricket for 15 years, who knows the ins and outs of this game, you would expect far better. So I'm going with the 4, primarily because he still hung in there. He still consumed a fair few deliveries across those innings and chucked the century. So just because of that, I'll give him a 4 on 10. And this is my idea of being lenient, but 4 se zyada to hargiz nahi.
Okay, fine. Mine, I think, is a 5, purely because it's a player rating and it's not just a batter rating. If you have to give a batter rating, I'd probably give him about 3.5. And obviously, it's there for you guys to see in terms of what that really caused. I would give him a 5 purely because if you look at the series, in moments of the series where he came up with constant plans with the bowlers, and you not normally see that with Virat being the leader in the group. Like, yes, he did it in his captaincy reign, but with him to help Rohit Sharma a lot was there. Let's talk about Rohit then, because he was, of course, pushed down the order before we come to Pant and NKR and stuff like that. What did Rohit do well on this tour? Anything at all?
On no counts could you possibly look at him in a positive light, and this is coming from me, just personal opinion, of course. I'll give him a 1. Yeah, I have no justification for why I'm giving a 1, but I'm giving a 1 only because the only justification is I don't want to give anyone a 0.
Next, all said and done, Rohit, I mean, are you going to go give him at least a 2, or are you sticking with Akshay in 1 and 10?
I'll give him a 2, purely from the sense. One, Akshay done it better. Probably 0.5 for the efforts to try and do something. But when you are in that kind of form, you could see nothing was working for him, whether he played at 6 or he came at 1. The 0.5 is also for the getting it right enough times, but then letting it go. But then at least you got yourself something. So if you want to not give him the if you want to give him credit and blame also, so you have to do that. So 0.5 for that, and 1 for purely dropping himself in the last game.
I just look at it as the final goodbye series. I don't think he's going to play any more Test cricket. I think he might win the Champions Trophy for us and then come out with a statement saying, I might be retiring from international cricket. This is me guessing it, but I feel Rohit, I would give him like 1, bro. Again, I would not give anyone 0 because of what Akshay said, because it's just unfair, because these guys are cricketers. They turn up, they do all the right things, and you have shit series. But like, it's the worst I've ever seen Rohit in any series ever in my life. So that's how I feel about it. I know many people will throw daggers at me, but bring it on. It's a Monday Night Live. Right, Rishabh Pant then, moving on. What did you guys like of him? Because there were so many expectations going into the series, and I think I'll give him a good 7, man. I don't think he deserves anything less. I mean, beg to differ, guys.
I'll probably go. Yeah, I'll give him a 5. But again, it has to do more with the fact that we expected a lot from him. He was arguably our best Test batter. Given those expectations, did he meet them? I highly doubt. But if you want to just look at it objectively, sure, he didn't have the worst of series, the worst of tours. खेल लिया मतलब ढंग का जितना हो सकता है. I know he received a lot of flack for the way he got out a couple of times. But again, in his defense, that's always been his game. He lives by the sword, he dies by it. And as much as we get annoyed with these antiques, these very antiques got us that Gaba win. So we'll have to just, accept it and take it in our stride.
Yeah, mine is similar to what Akshay said. I'll also give him a 5. I do hold him. See, I understand and I'm all for his extravagant shots. And I don't mind his first innings dismissal of the previous Test, but the second innings dismissal, the Melbourne one, I don't think it is justified. You're not going to go for a win there. So, and sometimes you have to play the situation more. Again, I'm not saying it was stupid. I'm just saying you have to put up more price on the wicket because you are that good enough. And it was the entire series was you losing on moments, and that was one of those moments because it cost India the Test. Aisa nahi tha ki you lost or you drew the game because of that error. You went on to lose the game because of that error. So I think the last Test, the last 61 actually gives him that extra point because otherwise, right through the Test, you saw him get out very predictively. I mean, Som, I don't know if I should put the mockers on Som, that he put the mockers ke Cummins ko every bar out nahi hua, and Cummins eventually came back to get him from the angle that we've all discussed. Over the wicket is where you have to get him. So tougher series for him, and again, we expected more of him. Hence, it was 4 then, but that last inning, it just tells you how good he is, that if one inning can give you 1 extra point, just tells you how much more he could have done. So one rare series, it's okay. He'll get better. So I'm not worried about that, but I still not want to see the shot that he gave with Travis. It was unnecessary.
NKR, loved him. Absolute positive. Probably the 3 highlights of the tour being NKR, Bumrah, and Jaiswal in whichever order. Maybe Bumrah obviously takes precedence, but NKR, guys, if we've given Jaiswal an 8, 8.2, and 8, I think our NKR would probably get an 8.4 for me, just because he could contribute first tour, didn't seem like a deer in front of the headlights. So that's for me an 8.5 for NKR. Akshay?
I'm just torn between 6.5 and 7. I'll probably go with 7. Pehla tour tha isliye. Overall, fantastic tour for him with the bat, but again, expected a lot more from him with the ball. If you guys remember what Sridhar sir also had to say, he in fact said that Nitish is actually more of a bowling all-rounder when it comes to red ball cricket and a batting all-rounder when it comes to white ball cricket. Did not really add as much value as, again, I expected off of him. Again, probably down to how much I really expected him, given that we needed that 4th pacer to be able to contribute enough with the ball, not just by taking wickets, just by holding an end up. And I don't think he did it just as well as I would have liked him to.
Nick, where do you stand on NKR? Because a couple of 40s initially in that tour, but then that 100, amazing stuff. And then, of course, a couple of ducks, but who cares?
Yeah, I think I agree with that assessment. I'll probably give him a 7. I wanted to give him more, but I still, maybe I'm a lot more harsh there. But I am disappointed by his last 2 dismissals. Even in MCG, I felt against Nathan Lyon, he's someone who played Nathan Lyon so convincingly and so confidently previously. So then for him to get out like that, and then the dismissal against Scott Boland, maybe it feels like teacher-like, but that is something that I did not want to see from a batter who's in form. So your expectations are going to be different from a guy who's in form like that. So probably lost out an entire point because of those two dismissals.
Right. Jadeja, what about him? Player ratings. I know he didn't play a couple of games, but still decent with the bat. He got that 70 odd. How much did he end up scoring in terms of the series? 135 runs in the 5 innings. And that's basic that you can expect from Jadeja. I know his numbers outside Asia has been brilliant, especially in this format. I know his partner in crime has now bid adieu to the game. So where does that leave Jadeja going forward, and how much do you guys rate him? I think flat 6 and 10.
Yeah, I think I have the same number in mind, exactly 6. Would have wanted him to play right from the first test. I think he was the batting order that India had to play. They took a risk with NKR. It came off, but it also backfired because eventually you had to play NKR and then another batting all-rounder because your batting was so bad right through the series. So 6 purely for his, actually 6 may say 5 is purely for his knock, because that saved India in Gaba. Otherwise, this could have been over by the time you came into the last one. I won't be surprised if you give him 5. I think his bowling let me down. I expected a lot more control from him. He bowled short very, very often.
Akshay, what about Jadeja for you? You laughed when we both said 6 because you were saying,
Yeah, मेरे दिमाग में भी 6 ही आया था, because I was literally writing down कि सबको कितना दिया है, so that relatively मैं सबको कितना दे रहा हूँ वो भी एक idea मिले. Jadeja 6 ही था मेरे लिए. 7 for his batting, and basically Nikhil भाई की तरह ही था मेरा भी scoring, just +1. 7 for his batting. I really thought he was a very dependable option for India. Unfortunately, he should have played a lot more knocks, a lot more innings at least. I really felt that he could have made a difference had he been a part of the series through and through.
Let's move on and talk about Sundar next in batting order. That's how we're going. So Sundar, like I said, did decently with the ball. Could have probably expected more wickets, but in the surface like that, like what Akshay just mentioned about Jadeja, the holding role was not there to see. With the bat in hand, slight unlucky calls in terms of a dismissal. That snicker one, we can remember that. And he was put in various precarious positions, and it's never easy to bat with the tail. So having said all of that, guys, I would give Sundar again a flat 6 on 10. Oh my, being too kind in these ratings. Nix, how much Sundar?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I'll go with 4. Again, 5 is to Jadeja because he got that big score. Sundar also batted time, but I think that's all he batted. His inclusion as a batting all-rounder meant that you had to use him, but they hardly used him. But that is not his fault. But with the bat, I expected a lot more from him. Even in the last gig, you felt okay. Jadeja is defensive, but Sundar is someone who has a bit more shots, and he's someone who can probably look to do something else. 1 point is cut purely for his skills for batting with the tail, because some of that was beyond my understanding. That you don't even have to say to people that, oh, you are batting with the tail, you have to farm strike. You can't take twos, or you can't do stuff that you do that, okay, let's just take a strike now and hopefully he can, take care of it. So I want him to, as Darshan says, I want him to bat higher, but that is also because of his defensive skills, not because of his skills to get the runs, so to say. So, yeah, as Santosh says, I deduct a point for the batting with the tail, so a 4. Yeah.
So where do you stand in Sundar really quickly? 6 and 10 or less?
5 and 10 for me. Just batting achhi thi, but lack of game awareness, and also with the ball in hand, sure, he was underbowled, and I wouldn't put that against him. But jo bhi dekha, it wasn't very, it was still very under par, to be honest. There was nothing new or different. I don't know how much of it can be put down to captaincy and the whole atmosphere in the back room and all of it. But all in all, I would give him a 5 on 10.
Right now, Mohammed Siraj, 20 wickets in the 5 test matches. Many people think he bowled his heart up. Many people think he still has a long way to go. Where do you guys sit on Mohammed Siraj? Let me start by saying that I think Siraj, I'd give him a 7.1 on 10. I think there's a ceiling that he has. There's obviously a ceiling that he can break through, and that's being optimistic as a fan. I think he bowled his heart out in the last tour because obviously it was against us with the injuries and stuff like that. But I was expecting slightly more from Siraj, but still, like, given certain situations of the game, he had to kind of remove some of the big fish of Australia, and he did that. He bowled to some plans, and he executed that brilliantly. If you look at how he got Smith out sometimes in the series, it was good from Siraj's perspective. But a 7.1, 7.2, nothing more for me for Siraj. How much do you guys rate him on 10? Nix?
I'll give him a 6.5. 0.5 is purely for the effort that he put in terms of number of overs. Again, the rating is into consideration how much I expect of him. This is his second tour, and he's bowled a lot of overs, and that is his strength. But then that strength, if it doesn't lead to match defining wickets, then it's not going anywhere. So I think at many times in this series he was very good, which is why he gets that 6, because he looked good. He took wickets in bunches as well a couple of times, but very often they came in the second innings. But in second innings, most often India have played catch up. You have to set the games up in the first innings, and there were occasions where he went at over 4 and considerably.
Again, Akshay, what's your assessment of Siraj? How much would you give him on 10?
जब surface आपके favor में, when there's so much for you to work with, despite that you not being able to make the most of it was very disappointing. But despite that, yeah, so I'll go with the 7.
Right, final player to give the ratings on, and that is Jasprit Bumrah. Are we giving it the inevitable 10? I mean, even though I've been very kind and lenient, I'm not giving Bumrah a 10 because I would give him a 9.7. Just because no one can be perfect. If literally...
Sorry, bro, he's gone at 13. I mean, do you understand? 13.
I know.
You should give him, or you could say he's not rateable. He's unrateable for any mere mortals. In a lineup like this, see, you can understand sometimes if you have a poor lineup, you can stand out. The guy has stood out between both teams and by a comprehensive margin. See, Scott Boland has come in and probably gone at 13.7 as an average, which is, again, outwardly for anyone to have a series like that. I would never even take anything off Bumrah. Ulta, मेरा थोड़ा अगर hamstring का power है, किसी का कुछ power मिल सकता है, keep him fit. That is all I'll say.
Unrateable, unplayable, one Jasprit Bumrah.